All right, welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're pulling back the curtain on something that happens every single time you go online. A process that's so fast, so seamless, you don't even know it's there. We're talking about the invisible, high-speed system that delivers the ads you see every single day.
You know that feeling, right? You're looking at a pair of shoes on one website, you close the tab, and then bam! Ads for those exact same shoes start following you everywhere you go online. It feels like a little bit of magic, maybe even a little creepy. But it's not magic. It's actually a massive, automated, and incredibly fast global marketplace working behind the scenes.
And when I say massive, I mean it. This isn't some small niche market. We are talking about a global industry worth over $500 billion a year. It's one of the main economic engines of the modern internet, and it's the reason so much of the content we read and watch is free.
So how does this all work? Well, to get it, you first need to understand who the main players are in this whole invisible marketplace. Every single ad you see is basically the end result of a transaction between three key groups. Okay, so think of it like a big trading floor. On one side, you've got the publishers. These are the websites, the news outlets, the blogs, the apps, anyone with content and ad space to sell. Their goal is to make money from their content. On the other side, you have the advertisers, like that shoe company. They want to buy that ad space to reach people who might be interested in their products. And smack in the middle, you have the middlemen. These are the ad networks and exchanges that act as the brokers, connecting the buyers and the sellers. And that's the whole reason these middlemen exist, right? They solve a giant logistics problem. I mean, can you imagine if every single company had to try and make a separate deal with every single blog on the internet? It would be absolute chaos. These ad brokers create an efficient, automated system to connect them all in an instant. So we know who is involved, but how does it all happen so unbelievably fast? This is where it gets really wild. We're talking about an auction that happens in literally the blink of an eye. And I mean that. Just look at this timeline. It's insane. The second your browser even starts to load a web page, boom, that's step one. An ad request, an ad opportunity flies out to potentially hundreds of buyers. The bids come rushing back in, the auction happens, a winner is picked, and the winning ad is served to your screen. All of that happens in less than 0.2 of a second. It's over before the page has even finished loading. And this whole crazy high-speed process, it's called real-time bidding, or RTB for short. This is the engine that powers the vast majority of the ads you see. And it all works because each player has specialized software to participate in this split-second auction. So on the publisher's side, the blogs and news sites, they use a tool called a supply-side platform, or SSP. You can think of this as their automated sales agent. It manages all their ad inventory and puts it up for auction on the open market. And on the flip side, the advertisers, that shoe company, use what's called a demand-side platform, or DSP. This is their automated buying agent. Its job is to scour the entire market for the right people to show ads to, and then place the bids automatically. The SSP and the DSP talk to each other through the RTB system, making the whole thing go. So here's the billion-dollar question, or I guess the $500 billion question. How does that shoe company's DSP know that you are the right person to show an ad to? How does it decide that your attention is more valuable than someone else's at that exact moment? Well, it all comes down to one thing: data. See, every time that auction signal goes out, it's not just an empty, "Hey, I've got space" message. No, it's a little bundle of data. It carries anonymous info about you, like a cookie ID and your likely interests. It includes context about the website you're on, what kind of device you're using, maybe your general location, all of it. This data packet lets advertisers make a snap judgment on exactly how much your attention is worth to them. So where does all this data come from? Well, you've definitely heard of the most famous or infamous method, cookies, but that's not the whole story. As cookies are slowly being phased out, other techniques like device fingerprinting, tracking pixels, and mobile identifiers all work together to build a profile of your behavior online. Okay, so we've got this amazingly efficient system, right? It serves us ads that are actually, sometimes useful, and it pays for a ton of the free stuff we love online. But there's a huge trade-off here, a real price to all this personalization. And that price is our data.
And just to add another layer of complexity, while these high-speed RTB auctions are the most common way ads are bought, it's not the only game in town. Some big brands want a guarantee. They use something called programmatic direct. It's basically like instead of going to the chaotic public auction, they make a deal ahead of time to buy a certain number of ad slots on a big, premium website for a fixed price. It's still automated, but with a lot more certainty.
But let's get back to that main RTB auction system, because its speed and complexity are also its biggest weaknesses. They open the door to some pretty nasty stuff. You've got malvertising, where criminals use the system to spread malware. You've got massive amounts of ad fraud, where bots pretend to be people, costing the industry billions. And of course, the big one, the huge data privacy questions about our info being bought and sold, often without us really understanding the full picture. And when we talk about fraud, we are not talking about small-time stuff. Take the infamous MethBot operation. This was an incredibly sophisticated ring of fraudsters who set up a huge network of fake websites and used bots to pretend they were people watching ads. They were siphoning off up to $5 million a day from the ad market. It just goes to show how high the stakes are. So it's really no surprise that governments and regulators are stepping in. All over the world, there's a huge push to tackle these problems, especially the fact that people often don't know they're giving consent for their data to be used this way. That's what's behind big regulations you've probably heard of, like GDPR in Europe or the CCPA in California. They're all trying to give you, the user, more control back. And that's really what it all boils down to. This incredible, invisible engine powers so much of the internet as we know it. But it leaves us with this massive, unavoidable question for our digital age. Where do we draw the line? How much of our personal privacy are we willing to trade for personalized content and a free internet? There are no easy answers, and that debate is going to define the next chapter of the web.